Yeah, geez. Yeah, sorry about the intrusion the last time. So, yeah, I believe we can owe him, so we can just start afresh. Yeah. Hello, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm just going to share my screen and then I'll continue for we'll start fresh. I think yeah, that would be better just to start fresh. Yeah, so I believe you can see my screen. Yeah, so open open source for designers. Yeah, so we'll be talking about open source for designers today. So this is supposed to be like this, like quick, a very short, quick session about what open source is, what's how designers can contribute to open source, how open source benefits designers, and where to start, how to start contributing to open source, or where to go to start contributing to open source projects. This is not going to be a session that tells you everything that you need to know about open source, like from A to Z about open source. No, this is just like a session that just gives you like the foundation or the basics about open source for designers. Yeah, so like the background, what is open source? So open source just has to do with a software and having the original code of a software being made available and free to everybody, to be redistributed and modified. And so what this means is what this just means is that I'm just going to be coming like from the developer's perspective. So when you have a project, when you build like a project, let's say I'm building a to-do application, so I'm building a scheduler application, yeah, and I just ship it out with the code and I make it accessible and free to everybody, which means you can take any part of the code and reuse it how you want. You can look at the project that I've done and if you see any issues with it or anything that you felt like can be improved upon, you send a request, you raise an issue, you pick up the issue, or you send a request and then you work on that part of the application, then you send in your pull request, then you check the changes that you've made, and if it works with what we have, we merge it and the cycle repeats itself like that. So relating to design, so how do designers, what is open source in relation to designers? So in relation to designers is like basic thing. But in the sense, design open source for design currently is quite limited in the sense that we don't properly have this framework that includes margin and raising peer requests and just like that in terms in relation to the actual design, not the communication around the design. Yeah. So for designers, how designers contribute to open source, what open source means to designers, sorry, what open source means to designer is the process whereby designers collaborate with developers working on open source applications and contribute to join the developers to contribute to open source projects, either existing or new projects. Yeah. So in a nutshell, like, and from my own understanding, what open source really is just solving problems collectively, solving problems like a team. Open source has to do with when different people from different walks of life across different industries in different countries come together to solve a particular problem together as a team. Yeah. So as related as, in relation to having, like, let's say a personal project. Yeah. So if I have a personal project, I'm working on my project alone. I push my project alone, and I want to make money off my project. I don't want to make money off my project. When it comes to open source, open source as open source software, open source design is about coming together collectively to solve a particular problem. We collaborate, we communicate, and we iterate. We work on a solution, and then if there are any faults or if we have any shortcomings in any parts of the application, we just come together, communicate, and say, okay, this can be improved upon, this design is not good enough, this design can be made better. Then we raise the issue, someone picks up the stuff, someone does it, and then we come again and we review the changes made, we review the additions, and we review the subtractions. If it works with what we have, if it suits what we have, we merge it, and then we continue like that, or we discard it and then we give feedback and things like that. But in a nutshell, open source to me really means coming together to solve problems collectively, collaborating, communicating, iterating, solve a problem together as a team. So for designers, why do designers need to contribute to open source projects? Like I say, design is the future of open source. Yeah, because at the end of the day, design is at the core of everything everybody does. So design is done consciously or unconsciously. Everything is a product of design. So that which means that design is actually at the heart of open source. Yeah. And relating to designers, one of the things we always talk about when we want to, when we want to talk to people, when we want to talk to employers, when we want to talk to fellow friends, when we want to talk to colleagues and just like that, we always tell them that, we're passionate about solving problems, we're passionate about helping people, we're passionate about, we like the word passionate a lot because it makes us like feel good, like we're solving problems, yeah. So yeah, that's one reason why we should, contribute to open source design, because it gives us the opportunity to actually solve problems for people. You get, because these open source softwares, they are free, they are open to everybody, they're accessible to everybody. So if these things are open and accessible to everybody, designers also, because of what we do, because we want to solve problems for human beings, because we want to make life better for people, because we want to make things look better and feel better, I want to create better human-centered products. That's good enough reason why we should contribute to open source designs, to solve problems for people, to help contribute to open and free softwares that makes life and processes easier for people as they carry their day-to-day activities. Yeah, so outside reasons why we should contribute to open source, what are the benefits of contributing to open source projects? Why should designers contribute to open source? Yeah, so one of the reasons why we should contribute to open source, because it affects our growth trajectory quickly. It accelerates our learning curve and our growth curve like very, 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 very fast. So I was giving an instance last time where I talked about this a scenario where I said where I talked about working with an agency, and you are the only designer in the team, and then every day you keep on doing the same thing, you keep on communicating with the same two people, you keep on getting feedback and perspective from the same two people. So what open source does for us is that it gives us the opportunity to interact with different people across different industries, different varying experience levels, and different communication progress. This I don't know. I think that's very well to use. Sorry. So open source itself is about solving problems collectively, which means that someone who is working at Google, someone who's working at Facebook, someone who's working at Amazon, someone working at Twitter, you feel me? All these people come together and they're contributing to a particular project. So if you are contributing to that project also, it means that you're getting feedback from people who work with some of the best designers in the world. You're getting feedback, and you're collaborating with people who are working with the best principal designers that we have, which means that their experience and their background and their insights is going to help you in terms of growing yourself and accelerating your growth quickly. So one of the benefits to contribute to open source is how it affects our growth instantly, because we're getting feedback from different people across different industries, from different backgrounds, and they're coming together to tell us that, okay, this can be done like this, can be done like this, can be done like this. And it also helps us, to grow our soft skill and our technical skills. Another benefit to contributing to open source design is because of the networking. Yeah. So the networking in the sense that, let's say I'm contributing to this project by VLC Media Player or something like that. Yeah. And then someone else contributing to the project works with LinkedIn. And then together we're contributing on this project together. We get to talk every day, not every day per se, we get to talk frequently regarding the project. From there, we can, become, I wouldn't use the word friends, but we get to communicate on a frequent basis. And then from there, the next thing here is we have an opening. I don't know if you can send in your application or send in your resume, and then you get a job. So one of the benefits of contributing to open source is because you are Open source gives you the ability to, gives you the opportunity to work with different people across different industries, thereby opening you to a whole world of opportunities in terms of networking with people and getting more people to know about you and what you do. And then another benefit of open source is because it gives us, real world experiences. Say I'm starting design, and I've been in design for 3 months, or I've been in design for 6 months, and I have not really worked on this very serious project. Yeah. So contributing to open source gives me the ability to, gives me the opportunity to have this working environment simulated to me, because you are communicating with somebody, you are getting feedback, you are designing, you are iterating, you are communicating, you are getting feedback, you are iterating, and the process keeps going like that. This is how, like, this regular work environment is. So contributing to open source gives us, this affords us this opportunity to get real world working experience quickly. So we have to contribute to open source design. Yeah. So since most of these open source projects are on GitHub, which that makes GitHub the best place in terms of contributing to open source design. And now I'm going to retreat and come back and say something else. So when it comes to design, we've not still gotten that perfect flow of saying, okay, I iterated on the button, and then you see the changes on the button, and then you merge. Design have not, evolved to that point in terms of open source and contributing like that. But what design can, where you can contribute, to open source is somewhere as simple as Figma community. So going back to the definition of open source just has to do with, open source generally talks about, having this original file, making it public and accessible to everybody, and making them, adopt it, and giving them the license and an opportunity for them to adopt what you've done and make it their own, which makes Figma community one of the, quickest place to have to start, open sourcing your designs. And okay, I'm just going to ask. So how many of us make use of Figma? I don't know. How many of us make use of Figma?
I do.
Okay. Yeah. So if you're not using, yeah, thank you. If you're not using Figma, you can leave the call. Sorry, we don't want to. Yeah. Okay. Jeez. So Figma community is one place where you can start, open sourcing your designs. You might not get the feedback that you want. You might not get, this community kind of feeling, or collaborating in real time kind of feeling, but it's another method of having your design being used by people, different people all over the world. Yeah, you see people who have designs, who have pushed out design out there. If you go to Figma community, I see them have 60,000, 50,000 duplicates, which means that 50,000 people, have actually adopted this design and made it their own. They've iterated upon it, they've improved it, and then they've adopted it to their own particular needs. So that's one way of having your design open sourced. You might not get the initial feedback that you want. You might not get the simulated work environment, but at least you know that, okay, you have done something, you've pushed it out there to people, and 1,000 people, 3,000 people, 5,000 people actually felt like, okay, this thing that you did actually helped me in solving my problem, and I want this, to the point of me downloading it, and then adopting it and revising it to my own needs. And then another place to, my heading is wrong. Another place to get design, to get to contribute to open source is Figma. Outside Figma, you can check out open source design /jobs. So these are like the two places where you can go to see projects that are currently in need of designers to contribute to to the project. People who want like designers to come and contribute to their open source project. So to reiterate, how you can contribute to open source, you can start off quickly and easily using Figma. Yeah, Figma community. You can just design a staff guide, design an application for ordering food, or a Uber for Lagos, or whatever you want to do, and then you put it out there, and then you see people beginning to download it and make it and adopt it to their own needs. Somewhere else you can go is on GitHub. So if you go on GitHub, if you check GitHub, if you check issues, they have design, design needs across different open source projects, and you can start contributing from there. You can also go to opensourcedesign.net/projects. You see different open source, different projects that need attention of designers, different open source projects that need attention of designers. You can also check opensourcedesign.net/jobs. You also see different open source projects that need attentions of designers actively, immediately. Thank you. My name is Adolphus Chris, and this is thank you. So I'll be entertaining questions now if you have questions for me.
So please, if you have any questions, just type it in the comment section and you will check it and read it and answer. Okay, so no question. That means everybody understood. Can anyone hear me? Okay, so Estec is saying, can you show the last two slides? And yeah, ask your question. Tukumi, type it.
Okay. So Estec wants to could you please show the last two slides? Okay, yeah, for the last slides, I'm just going to okay, so I'm just going to drop the links here for us. I think that's going to help us. I'm just going to drop the link here for us. So I'm going to bring out the links here. So this is the first one that I displayed. And this, I believe, is the second one. Yeah, for my socials, my Twitter is just DevChris. That's my Twitter. Okay, some more questions.
No, there are questions. Check.
Yep. Okay, so for Estec and Ibrahim, I've dropped the links that we wanted. Oluwatukumi. Okay, so I'm going to read the question out here. Okay, so do UI kits and design system qualify as open source project when placed on Figma community? Yeah, to some degree, I'm going to classify them as open source projects. Yeah, to some degree, I'm going to classify them as open source projects because if we are looking at the definition of open source projects, if we're looking at the definition of open source projects of I said open source of open source. So we talk about open source, has to do with having the original file and making it freely available for people to distribute it or to modify according to their needs. This falls perfectly into what Figma community does because you have your file in Figma community and then people can duplicate this file freely without any pay, adopt it to their needs, make it their own, modify what they want, take what they want, and add what they want to it and remove what they want from it. So this still makes it open sourced to some degree. I'm going to classify this as contributing to open source. So yes, your UI kits and design systems is a means of also contributing to open source. Your UI kits and design systems on Figma community is one way to contribute to open source because you have something that you've done and you've made it available to people for free. You've given them the opportunity and the liberty to take this design kit, this UI kit that you've designed to reconfigure it, change some things, add some things, and it still becomes their own. So yeah, that's one way of contributing to open source. Uh, okay. So is there a vetting process or a level of expertise a designer needs to have in order to contribute to an open source project? Honestly, open source project is open to everybody. This, if you go on GitHub today and you see some projects and you see an issue that has been raised regarding a design need, if you feel like you can do it, go for it. I used to tell people a lot. I used to say that the first design is not actually the design for me. Like I feel like you can't get a design perfectly the first time. So if you think experience wise, just if you pick a particular design, do it once, iterate upon it the second time, iterate upon it the third time, iterate upon it the fourth time. You are going to see a very, very big difference between what you did the first time and what you've done, at the fourth try. So just there's no experience level required. If you feel like you got it, you go there and you take the job and you do it. You don't need any level of expertise at all. I keep asking myself what open source is and how I can go about it. Oh, thank you, Mr. Chris. Oh, thank you. For on our patients, for beginners, how can we start? I just give up each time I try. So one way to start is go on GitHub. I think the first time for me was on GitHub. That was like the first time I actually like put on my design there. And then the next time I did open source was when I was working with Rising, on this Down4JS, on the Down4JS design and documentation like that. I had a shot on open source. But the first time for me was just on Figma. Yeah, I just went on Figma. I just did my design and just put it out there. Then I said that, okay, 1,000 people, 2,000 people, 3,000 people, 4,000 people, 5,000 people have downloaded the file. I felt like, okay, this solves problem for people, and for them to duplicate it means that it's actually solving their needs, and they need it, and they are modifying it to their own particular needs. So yeah, that works. So you can start on Figma and you can start on GitHub and you can start with the links I've just sent. Just go there, message the person who raised the issue, message the people who who wants the design. Just message them, shoot them a message. There's no one shoe fit it, or there's like no serious very, very serious process in terms of contributing to open source design. You just have to go there, see what they want, message the person, tell them that you can do this and what they need. If they tell them what you're going to be needing, if you need the logo, if you need the color palette, if you need the typography, whatever you need, just communicate with them. They get back to you and you've started already. So there's no big deal, or there's no serious stuff that you need to try to start with. So start from Figma. From Figma, if you have done something and you see that one person duplicated, that means that, okay, yeah, my design is this, and definitely someone is going to duplicate it. That's the truth. Then from there, you go to you go on GitHub, you check out open source projects, you check out issues that have been raised. When you check out the issues that have been raised, you're going to see different people and their design needs. You message them or you comment under the issue. So once you comment, they're going to reach out to you immediately. Once they reach out to you, you get their message inside your mail. So when you get the message inside your mail, you start communicating from there. You can give them your phone number, you can give them your email address, your social media handle. A better way for you to communicate. So when you keep communicating, if there's a community, they add into the community, and you started like that. Mr. Chris, for something to be open source, it must be placed in a community platform. If it can be placed in a community platform, it's going to be considered as open source project. Is this a contribution or a question? Sorry, I missed it. Abisola. Hello. Abisola, sorry, are you here?
I don't think she's here again, but I think it's a question.
Okay, it's a question. Okay, yeah. I mean, yes, that's the idea of open source. The idea of open source is that an open source project is a community project. So if it's not in a community, it's not open source. That's it. If it's not in a community, it's not open source. So Figma community open source. GitHub is a community open source. So that's it. So since it's like solving problems collectively as a group, it's not one person doing one thing. It's one person doing something and then making it available for other people to contribute to give their opinion on it. So it's like a community stuff, and then yeah, open source involves community. Is a community project. Thank you. Yeah. Any more questions?
Any more questions, or we should call it a day?
I think that's all. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all the questions, or that's all the questions, rather. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, my name is Chris Adolphus. Yeah, see you some other time.
So thank you very much. And okay, so we're rounding up now, and yeah, we like I earlier said, sorry about the intrusion. I don't know what happened. It was breached. So apart from that, tomorrow we'll be having another event. We'll be having a cloud study jam. So you can register if you want to register it. I'm going to be hosting um someone new last. I'm a cloud architect. The architecture of the what? Yes, I think so. So it's going to be having tomorrow by 10 a.m. to 12. So you are free to register and come for it. There'll be quick labs credits. So I think about 200. So you can um, do labs on quick labs and gain badges. And also on Saturday we'll be having Flutter event. So we're going to be hosting two people to come to talk about custom UI and Flutter Web. So you could also register and we'll see you on Saturday. So thank you very much for coming. See you tomorrow if you are coming. And have a lovely remaining of the week. Or how should I even put it? Okay, bye
Have a
everyone.
lovely week. Bye.
No, the week is already like half now. So I can't say have a lovely week. I said
Have
the
the
week is
enjoy the
just
remaining
starting.
half of the week.
Oh yeah, that's